Hi, Dr. Lupo. How's it going?
No, not too bad, Thomas. It's a beautiful summery day today, and
Yeah.
you wouldn't know that it's near the end of September and exams are coming up. So
Yeah, we're nearing 90 today, it looks like.
90
it's
degrees
It's going to be quite
the
warm.
end of September. Not completely out of the question, but certainly unusual.
Yeah, for sure. Today, of course, we're here to talk about your winter weather outlook for 2025, 2026. And I was taking a look at your thoughts, and the first big thing I noticed was that there are three big components that you look at, three big things that determine what winter looks like. So, what are those things, and what did you see?
Okay, there's three things that one needs to know to be a good long-range forecaster, and that's the El Nino La Nina cycle, because that dominates an entire year and of course has a cycle of about 2 to 7 years. Then there's teleconnections, which are influenced by El Nino itself. And then there's blocking, and blocking is a stationary ridge in the jet stream that at its worst can dominate a season over the region that it settles over. So if you know those three things, you can be a good long-range forecaster.
Awesome. So of course, you looked at those three major things. Which of the three of them would you say had the most influence on this year's outlook?
Well, the thing that I'm looking for and I'm betting on and is the hardest of the three to get a handle on is blocking. Okay, predicting when and where it's going to occur and for how long is very difficult, but I see some indications that the conditions are right for a lot of Pacific region blocking this winter. And when you get a lot of Pacific region blocking, Alaska can be warmer than normal, but that means the Midwest is going to be in the trough that's upstream of the blocking, and that means cold weather for us. So.
Okay, so talking about temperatures, you brought up cold. Are we expecting that it's going to be all winter long? Are you expecting a colder than usual winter overall, or do you think that later in the winter we could see things change?
No, that's the thing about averages. Averages are very tricky, and even long-range forecasts are tricky because you can be right for the wrong reason. If you say that it's going to be colder than normal, well, that means it can be below normal, a little bit below normal every day, or you could have like the winter of 2014-15 where December was very warm, January was about average, and February was just plain cold. And when all was said and done, it averaged out to be a below normal winter, even though 2 of the months were not too bad.
Yeah, fair enough. So that's great to know that just saying that it's going to be a colder than usual winter, there's still a lot of room for winters to vary in that.
Oh, absolutely. And you could even bring up the example of this summer when we've gotten a normal amount of precipitation, but we had a very wet June and we've had a bone dry August. And if somebody 50 years from now says, oh, the summer of 2025 had normal numbers, people won't pay attention to it, but obviously something's happening that would be interesting to study about this summer. But back to the winter weather forecast and what we're looking for. Of course, if we get the blocking, like I think we will, and I think in a lot of respects we're set up to repeat last year's pattern, which means a very cold February period or a late, very cold in the late winter. I think that's closer to what's in store for us.
Gotcha. So you mentioned rainfall in the summer and precipitation. We've mentioned that it's going to be cooler than usual over the winter. Are we expecting more precipitation, less precipitation than usual? Do we have an idea of how much of that you think will be snow versus rain? What are we looking at there?
Yeah, last year I had predicted slightly less precipitation than normal because we were going into a La Nina winter. But when all was said and done, we were actually a little bit above normal, not too much above normal. But I think we're on track for about that same kind of thing. And there was a period in January and February where we were getting regular snow events. Not a lot, but enough to be a nuisance.
Yeah, so it looks like we have a maybe slightly wetter than usual winter, a slightly cooler than usual winter. What past winters would you say this looks the most like? I know you've mentioned 2024, 2025. Are there any other winters that come to your mind when you think about the pattern we're moving into?
Yes. The other winter that I mentioned, 2014, 2015, also looked a little bit like this, as did 2020 and 2021. But of course, 2021 was the extreme when we had the polar vortex. I don't think we're going to see that.
Yeah. So we've talked about what we're expecting temperature-wise, what we're expecting rainfall and precipitation-wise, and what other winters it's looked like. We've also talked about how you're expecting that Pacific blocking and Midwest troughing. Have we seen anything? I know we talked about it briefly. What are the teleconnections telling you at this point?
Well, the teleconnections will be impacted strongly by El Nino and blocking. I look at teleconnections as like the bridge between the two. And of course, if the teleconnections are being influenced by the blocking, that means I think we'll see a particular pattern of ridge trough over the U.S. more often than we'll see the opposite.
Okay, gotcha. So it looks like you're expecting a more active winter then in that case, lots of changes in the pattern perhaps around.
Oh yeah, being in the middle of the continent, I don't think it's going to be just straight cold every day. I think you're going to get periods of time where it's not too bad, or you'll get relief from the cold, and then it'll get cold again.
So would you say then that it's more likely that we'll see periods of warmth and cold than a winter where most of the time it's just slightly cooler than usual, if you had to bet on which one of those we'd see?
Yeah, I would bet on that.
Okay.
I would bet on that, and that's kind of what we saw last year, especially in the end of December and into the holidays. We saw an extended period of very warm weather, and then of course we know what happened at the end of January and then again at the end of February. So
yeah, very cool. And we had some snow for our trouble too, which was
absolutely. And of course, when we talk about winter weather, we always talk about winter weather safety, and it's always good to have in your trunk or somewhere in your vehicle a small shovel, sand or kitty litter, and some blankets, some extra blankets in case you're stranded somewhere.
Okay, so we've gone over the overall outlook, the reasons behind it, some safety tips, and what it's looked like in the past. So I guess just to wrap it all up in a bow for the people at home, if you had to tell people in just a few sentences what can they expect this winter, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to expect much of what we saw last winter, just cooler than normal, but ups and downs, and some annoying snowfalls that of course gave us some snow days last year. So
yeah,
if you have kids in school, you might want to be ready for a couple of those.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea at all. All right, well, Dr. Lupo, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.